Babybeard Media.
Bravely going where no one has bothered to go before. It's the Imaginauts!
Welcome back to the Imaginauts with me, your Captain Phil, and
first class first mate James.
he remembered it this time. Very good.
Yes.
Could you get Sean from the brig?
Sean?
Oh, wait.
Hey.
He's here.
How you guys going?
Oh.
Did you not lock the...
Maybe?
Brace for impact! Sorry. Yeah, we are under attack, which is why we've got our HR person with us.
Perfect person for the job, really.
Hello, I'm back. Unfortunately, I never actually left. My Lamborghini got impounded, so I've been in the cargo hold this entire time.
Oh, jeez.
Space impounding.
Do you like my beard, though? It's been growing since I
It's very
left.
lavish.
Lavish.
I'd say it's that sea merman at the moment.
Are those plats?
Oh, well, I mean, like, you gotta do something when you're locked in a cargo hold for time.
Is that what you were, like, cargoing across the galaxy? Just lots of hair accessories?
That makes you a stowaway. HR on the 9 to 5. The rest of the time, I do a little bit of makeup and hair.
You almost didn't help me. I was looking at you like, I'm going for something. I'm not thinking it through. Yeah. Help me, improv man.
And I'm looking at you the same way that I look at a lot of people who are struggling. And it's like,
Do it yourself.
Your own. Yeah. I'll help you, but you need to get the words out first.
You didn't happen to see if there were any torpedoes in the cargo bay down there?
If by torpedoes you mean the hollowed out shells that I've made into little hair care booths, then yes, I've seen a lot of them.
Well, you
those
didn't
at the
you didn't give me a bed, so I've been using one as a pillow.
What are we going to fire back with?
James?
Well, I've been using one as a lover.
No, I mean, let's fire James at them.
Yeah.
He's my first mate.
But he's first class, so he's prime candidate.
Ooh, yeah.
Incoming!
I've always sound effects in this.
Yeah, let's do it. I've always wanted to do, the
Star Trek
thing where they all
shake.
They all shake.
Yeah.
So in true Imaginauts fashion, which is giving facts,
Yes.
they actually, the way that they used to determine what kind of impact it was, that they would give it a number, so they'd all agree, okay, this one's going to be a 4. So they all know what like kind of whether to go absolutely insane.
That's pretty
or whether
good.
just
That's
a
brilliant.
little one. So it's like, what are we doing? A 6. All right, let's do it.
Okay.
That's unheard of.
You're like, really, was that a 6? You just kind of jiggled a bit.
Well, but that was more like a hot 1.
Maybe so, like, someone's like a 7 and someone just leaps across the line.
Oh, there is always one who is a 7.
Yeah, there's someone who's
I
leaping.
love the guy who leaps. There's always he's really gunning.
Or someone like
for it.
falls onto like a control panel and then sparks are just flying everywhere.
That'd be like as like quirky as an in joke as it would be, as everyone's like, let's do a 7, everyone do a 3. Just William Shatner goes.
There was like an old thing where like on like old Doctor Who where sometimes like the stunt people would like see how long who can have the longest death. So like a Dalek would like shoot someone and it's like someone for 10 seconds being like and then they're like convulsing and they fall down and it's like that was just too long. That was too long for someone to die.
Brilliant, though.
Evasive maneuvers! I love this. I bet the audience is really excited.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Great. The reason you're on, the HR person, is this we're under attack because of an HR dispute.
I think we're being boarded.
Oh no, we're being boarded.
We don't need sound effects.
We've got the boarding sound effects. This is a very sneaky border.
I feel like
sneaky.
They'll never know.
So, yeah, I mean the old who defected recently?
me.
Not you.
Oh, well, I did.
You're not attacking us, are you?
No.
No, the chip isn't removed.
Has he? Let me check his body for clone samples taking.
No, I don't have. I have midi-chlorians.
So it means that you're completely hated by everyone then.
Yeah, that's standard fare.
Speaking of facts, in the expanded universe, they kind of tried to fix up the midichlorians thing.
I was going to mention that.
In the books, they were like, oh, yeah, midichlorians are a byproduct of whatever causes the force that we don't know what it is. And it's like, yeah, nice
thought it was going to be Qui-Gon was an idiot.
That's why he's dead.
He's this like fringe extremist. Like, he's got these crazy ideas.
Like New Age therapy. Where it's like there are these metachlorians in your body.
His machine was never working. It was never on. He went beep beep beep. You've got them.
It's like the Scientology the measure you.
He's the David Wolf Barry of Jedis.
That's
like,
why
midichlorians can cure everything.
Yeah.
That's why Anakin turned out so wrong. He's like, this is the kid. Are you sure, Qui-Gon? You're usually wrong about these things.
Yes, that's the reason why
I'm going to need your son.
Can we take your boy with us when we go? He's special.
I thought you were talking about it.
He's going to be James. I thought you changed his name.
I thought you were talking about his torpedo lover. Yes. Wait, is it a female torpedo? Because if it's able to then have torpedo babies, we can fire it as like a MIRV, and then it's multiple missiles.
It's genderless.
Ah, damn it. Damn it. It's a torpedo after all.
Yes.
So we're here under attack by a disgruntled employee, which is a little unfortunate, but damn it, we're going to record anyway.
It's only a minor inconvenience, really.
For sure.
Did you fire it? Did you give him severance package, or did he just defect straight out?
See, I misunderstood the word severance.
As in, sever his arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to give him a decent bionic replacement, because I would like a bionic arm. Would you?
Yeah, why not?
Given the opportunity, I'm sure.
I've got a bionic eyebrow.
Oh, so we are the Imaginauts.
Cool, prompting. Cool.
Organic. We're the Imaginauts, and we go on a podcast adventure through science, technology, and history every week, prompted by a single word. And thematically, this week we're doing military. Who would like to kick us off with a few facts about military?
You've never put the onus on us before.
Yeah.
This is I can't even think of the word that I want to use to describe this. This is what's
unprecedented.
Unprecedented.
Historic, unprecedented.
I was about to say everyone wanted power, and now power is being distributed amongst the masses, and you all don't know.
I don't know what to do with it.
Well, James, you go first. Then.
Okay.
Hey, dictatorship works.
Squandered your opportunity.
We're
We
all
took
sheep
too long.
here, so
Way too long.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm HR hairdresser.
I just kind of looked up, I guess, some stupid things.
Okay. So was that your goal going into it? Was like, I want to find some stupid stuff about
To do with
war?
military?
Well,
Or
the
to
military, I guess any job, any profession, any branch of government make mistakes.
Yeah, for sure.
Make decisions, and they're people, and people do stupid things, and it's a human error, really.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
the thing.
Yeah.
What
do they call it? How this is going to tie onto mine.
Blue on blue.
Blue on blue. Do you know that term? Blue on blue?
No.
It's the
2x2?
It's
Hands are blue.
It's what they started using instead of friendly fire, because friendly fire had bad connotations.
So they said blue on blue.
Blue on blue. Yeah,
Blue.
it's when you shoot your own guys.
But that still has a bad connotation.
Yeah, but just people don't know what it means.
Yeah, but
right?
now I just think of Halo, so it's okay.
I think of a bunch of very wealthy people in a fight. It's like, oh no, they're engaged in blue on blue. It's like, punch.
Oh yes, cordon bleu. Yes. Okay. Let's start off with a man named Hiro Onoda. I hope I didn't butcher that name.
Probably did. Probably.
But okay. I'll just ask you guys a question. Okay, in 1974, what war was he fighting?
Vietnam.
1974.
War of the Currents.
No.
The War of the Roses reenactment.
Oh, the reenactment?
Yeah.
War of the Worlds.
No.
War
I'm
on
sorry.
drugs.
The war against
No.
kangaroo emus.
No,
Not that one.
No,
not that one.
that's-
Have you got that one in your research?
No, I didn't do that because I feel like everyone knows about
Quite
that
well
one.
known.
I
now.
didn't know about that one.
No, we'll cover it. in a
Okay,
bit, yeah.
we'll bring that back. But
Yeah.
in 1974, Hiro Onoda was fighting World War II.
Single-handedly.
Oh, was he lost on an island? He didn't know the war was over.
There is
Yes!
so much to unpack in that sentence that I want.
Brilliant.
Oh.
It was I think it was 1944. He was sent to the Philippines on a small island to basically, be a guerrilla force and just stop the American army however they could.
Yeah.
And it was too efficient.
He went in with a few other men, and then the island got took over by American forces. They fled into the forest, and then a year later the war's over, and
no one
he
told them.
To be fair, everyone did tell them. he doesn't never believe them. Okay, like basically, okay, so they would like drop like newspapers and propaganda. He would think it's propaganda, be like, the war's over, and he's like, I got here last year. The war can't be over.
It's just the enemy's trying to
like the enemy's trying to trick
surrender,
me,
right?
Yeah, and then it's like they send Japanese troops there to be like, look, come on, guys, it's really over.
You can
And it's
come
like-
home.
Yeah, and it's like, this is a trick. I know it's a trick. Okay, and then they're dropping like newsletters. They're dropping flyers from like loved ones, right? And they think everything is fake. So it's like him and a small grouping live in the forest and live off the forest, and apparently keep their like gear in pretty good condition after all that time.
Do you know how many of them there are?
I think that was like 5. I think
That's a solid family.
And over years, they would get shot and killed, but because like they would get into skirmishes with like farmers and police,
Right.
because like, and they would think, oh, this is the enemy, you know, and they would rob farmers of their stuff, and then like get into like firing and disputes, and occasionally one of them would die, which is a sad thing because all they have is each other.
Right, yeah, of course.
And
They're also doomed to like, because as you were saying, it's like they're dropping things. It's like, oh, they'll surely believe this, and it's like, no, now they're just lying to us on a whole new level.
yeah, I'm like
the harder you try, the less believable.
So
exactly.
what gets them to stop?
okay, it was like.
No, as in, but like, imagine what has to happen to be like, oh, no, that makes sense. It's like, do you need the age of YouTube, or do you need...
Yeah, can you show them enough media to be like, this is the world now?
But it's like,
right?
just shake them and slap them?
It depends, like how much they believed in like the Japanese army of being able to beat this force. Be like, no, we couldn't have lost. It just couldn't have happened.
I was reading a book, The Narrow Road to the Deep North, which is about the Burma Death Railway and Australian soldiers on it, but it's kind of interesting because it looks at the whole phenomenon from the side of some of the Japanese officers who were in charge of the work camps as well, and there's this sort of sense of the Japanese Imperial Army cannot be defeated, and to even entertain that thought is dishonorable and treasonous, right? So he's being a good Japanese soldier by saying, I refuse to believe that the emperor could be defeated a year
it's
after
not
it was
possible.
dropped here.
The emperor was like God.
They were incredibly devout. Like,
Of course, because they're not just saying the war's over, they're saying the war's over and you lost.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So yeah, basically, like eventually, like all of them died except him, and in 1974, which is like 29 years living in a forest.
That's a depressing worldview as well. You think, so how long did World War II go for?
39 to 45.
39 to 45. It's already pretty bloody war by that point, and then you think it's gone on another
29.
Because you said he went in 44. So
in
that's
44.
the majority of the war has happened.
Yeah.
The decimation has occurred. It's like, I'll have this for another 3 decades, sure.
Sure. People won't go, this was maybe a bit
Excessive?
We should come to an agreement. I mean, that's not quite
But
how
eventually,
World War
like-
II ended, but yeah.
Eventually, trying to get them out of there because, I mean, somehow they're still managing to get weapons and still cause a lot of trouble. And
Trouble for the
they
people
have
on the
killed
island, yeah.
civilians kind of
Yeah.
thing because they think they're in war. Eventually, someone goes to Japan. I think someone from the Philippines goes to Japan and they manage to get his commanding officer. They track him down.
Oh my God.
And they get him there and they go through the forest and they actually find him. And he's the reason why he gave up. Because it was like, okay, it
order
must
you
be
to
over.
stand down.
Basically he ordered him. It's like, the war's over. Come home, and that was the only way. Because they had to track down his commanding officer.
Shame on
I
them
feel
that
like I
it
should have
took
tried
them
that earlier.
30 years to do that. Like, you know what? Let's get the guy that gave him the order.
Yeah, but like you would think. Would that be really necessary that you need to find the man who gave the order?
yeah.
I mean, if we
it's
give them 30 years,
Yeah, I guess so.
With an imperialist like military doctrine like that, probably. But I also like the idea of him just being like, "Come home," and it's like, all right. Okay. just takes off his like tree clothing and it's just like, I guess I'm back with community now.
He was still wearing his uniform.
Oh Jesus,
The same uniform.
that would reek.
Yeah.
And be full of holes.
No,
and-
apparently kept it in pretty good condition.
Oh, wow.
And some of his gear was all still usable and fine.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
I think if you have nothing to do but live in a forest and guerrilla fight, you have a lot of probably spare time to keep your gear well maintained. And if you're that devout to, I guess, fighting this war, you'd want to keep your gear because you don't know when you're being resupplied next.
Yeah,
You know?
never. Apparently,
Never. The war is over, so
Do you
never.
think he was embarrassed as well? His commanding officer was like, "Yeah, you should have believed them. It's been over for 29 years." And he's like,
yeah, I mean, he's got to be embarrassed.
I think it'd be even better if the commanding officer came and said, yes, that was all fake. The war is over now.
and he's like,
Because of you.
"You won it. Well done."
Medal.
No, he's like, come home, the war is over. Winks. And then he just starts killing everyone.
They do the epic, like they both pull the gun of the other person out and lean across and just shoot everyone. Turning, spinning, everyone's dead.
The headline,
Actually,
World War
the
II
best
is back
sleeper
on.
It's
agent.
basically like a John Woo flick.
Yeah, I was about to say. I would watch that.
So, yeah, he finally returned to Japan and, man, he hated it.
This story keeps going. I love it.
Okay, so you can imagine how much Japan's changed in 29
Yeah,
years. He
yeah.
just nothing about it was the same. So he just
The technology then would be technology now that we've received. It's such
Yeah,
always
for sure.
Yeah, Jesus.
You've been
So-
out of the loop for 29 years. It's like
Yeah.
Cap, right?
He picked up a Nintendo Switch and everything was awesome.
well, you think like a lot of the cities would have been built with wood,
Yeah.
and that whole, it would have shifted massively in 29
so
years.
it's 44 to 70.
74.
70.
Anime and manga's a thing. He's like,
Vending
Yeah,
machines
he's
as
like-
far as the eye can see.
As soon as he saw anime and manga, he was like, "I'm leaving."
Went right back to the island, just hopped back into the tree. Like,
When
this
was
is
the
home.
bullet train invented?
I don't know.
Bullet train.
I
Because
don't
that
know.
would imagine coming home to that.
Yeah.
Oh, I was about to say, this is different from my horse and carriage, but I don't think the 40s were horse and carriage.
You've got a very weird view on Japan. It's like horse and carriage to like robots in the course of 3 years.
Isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool, thanks.
Depending if you believe the anime.
is this going to end really tragically?
No, it's fine.
good.
He went there, then he's like, "Screw this! I'm going to go to Brazil and raise cattle."
Okay.
And he did that, and eventually he went back to Japan and started a like organization to teach kids how
be
like
stubborn.
survival.
Okay,
in the
sure.
forest. So it's that kind of thing where it's like he didn't like, I guess, how the culture's going, where it's like it's not really like outside, like that kind of thing, where it's like we got to get these kids outdoors and enjoying like the world, and I'll put world in quotation marks.
if you come under attack by allied
yeah,
forces,
basically.
if you need to kill
so
a farmer,
much-
this is how you do it.
So much better than what I thought you were going to say. Is he's going to be teaching kids that the war's still going.
In his mind.
he's militarizing children.
I was
yeah.
the opposite. I was like, he's teaching children that the war is over.
Kids, the war is over, but
we
is
know.
it? God damn it, kids.
Slap.
Okay, so that's the end for that man's story.
Oh,
Yes.
what was his name again? Abe?
Hiro Onoda.
Anoda.
He is the
Anoda.
true hero.
There
He's
we
a
go.
hero in our eyes. So I got some other stupid things. Has anyone heard of the M28/29 missile?
Yes.
Yes, the
No.
okay.
I thought it was a machine gun, but so carry on.
It's also nicknamed the Davy Crockett.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know of the Davy Crockett.
It sounds lovely.
Davy Crockett was like a governor or a senator, and he died at the Alamo.
yes.
He was famous
Right,
for killing a bear and being an excellent shot.
Right, okay, sure.
And
So Davy Crockett,
he used to wear those big.
he wears a raccoon hat, raccoon hat with
yeah.
the tail, and he has a long rifle, right? That's the image you have of Davy Crockett,
yeah.
right?
Killer
So,
of
yeah.
bears, lover of women.
Yeah, he became like a hero. He died at the Alamo along with Jim Bowie, who he famously made the Bowie knife quite popular.
Oh, okay, that's where that comes
yeah,
from.
I think he was. Little side tangent. He was in like a bar. He was in a bar fight. A guy pulled out a sword cane, stabbed Jim Bowie in the chest, but hit the sternum. It stood there. It's stuck in. Jim Bowie pulled his Bowie knife out and stabbed the dude to death.
I guess
and
he
then pulled
just
the
called
knife
it.
out.
I guess he just called it a knife.
Yeah, he just called it a knife. But everyone was like, a Bowie knife. Nice.
No. So a Bowie knife's just a regular knife, but you have to have a sword in you at the time. Automatically
yes.
makes it a Bowie knife.
I think it was a particular
Or you
kind
have
of
to be
knife that
called
he used to have.
David for it to be a Bowie knife.
Yeah.
David
Bowie.
On a side note, you said Davy Crockett and Jim Bowie.
Yep.
Consequently, Jim Crockett was a wrestling promoter.
Jim Crockett and David Bowie.
Yeah.
Just remix all the
My
history
God.
names.
I would pay to see that.
So tell us about the Crockett
the
missile.
Davy Crockett. Okay, basically it was a stupid idea. Okay, imagine if you could have a nuclear warhead as a rocket launcher.
Oh, like the big boy from Fallout. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fat man.
Fat man.
I can point out one problem with that.
Yeah, we'll get
close
to
to
that.
it.
Okay. So basically,
Misfire.
imagine like a tripod.
Backwards.
You've got like a pretty massive tripod, and on top of it sits this cylinder that's probably 3 meters long.
Okay, so
And
it's
at
a
the-
big rocket launcher.
Yeah, and at the end, it can sit on a Jeep as well. And at the end is like maybe a 2-foot long missile, and it can fire 2 kilometers to 4 kilometers, depending on the light or heavy variant of the
I
Davy
have a
Crockett.
feeling that's still not as far away as you'd want to be.
No, because they realize that's within the radiation zone.
So you've done your Jeep, you fire it, and then you drive the other way.
Yeah, they I was watching like the little promotional video, and it's like, and it releases its deadly radiation, and like I'm just like all the people are there, and I'm like, what are you doing there? Run away! And it's like
He just said it was deadly.
They just put on gas masks. We're fine.
We're fine.
It
But
releases the freedom particles.
they realize that if the wind blows the wrong way, you'll end up radiating your entire army. So
And so the expression, if you pull a face, the wind will change and it will stay like that, was born.
yeah, it's like because you're dead.
You get the Uncle Sam cough.
But yeah, they made like 1,200 of them, I believe, and then a lot of military leaders were like, "Yeah, we can use them. We can nuke the beaches and then head in." And then I think people
No, you can't.
That's people. Have these guys done military before?
no, because like it was
Do
that
you even military?
Do you even military?
It was like look, like radiation and like the atomic age was relatively new to all these people.
Yeah,
It was like a steep learning curve where it's like literally if that bomb goes off, you can't go there.
Yeah.
And they
At all, you need to move
"But
away."
For a couple
why?"
thousand years.
Yeah. So basically, they had to cut that program.
Yeah. It
Just
sounds
dropping
like
them all out of planes along the way. Just like, let's do it the old-fashioned way.
Terrible
sounded like
idea.
they got a bit of nuke crazy. Like, yeah.
Oh, they got new crazy.
shoulder mounted nukes and
Just sounded like a big crocket of shit. You know?
Oh, yeah, it's a crocket of shit. I'm sure someone said it back then before they died of radiation. Yeah.
Rocketry itself was originally invented to get mail over to a small isolated island just off the UK. Yeah, so this guy was like, "Oh, what's the easiest way? You can't really. It's not. You can't
launching the
regularly
mail."
like flight wasn't very sophisticated. You can't regularly get things over there. There's not enough boats going over there regularly. It's like, but I can use my knowledge of physics to fire a small projectile over there with a capsule with all the mail in it, and that's how rocketry got going.
Honey, did you check for the mail?
I will blame that guy's laziness for the deaths of millions.
yeah, you should. Yeah.
As another side note, perfect name for that idea: the Crockett Launcher.
Crockett launcher. They should have named it.
Yeah.
That would have been good. So that's that misguided one. Let's move on to the ship called the Mary Rose. The Mary Rose was a ship. This was quite some time ago.
I know this story. It's part of English history
It's like
teaching.
1511 is
Yeah.
when it was commissioned, and in a battle which was the Battle of Solent.
The Solent, yeah.
Solent
yeah,
in
yeah.
1545.
The Solent's like a bit of the sea between England and France. Yeah.
And like when it was being constructed, the people came to look at it, and they looked at all the guns, and they were like, more.
Yes. Or the Mary Rose. We'll put up a picture of it. Kind of. They had artist rendition of it. Had a lot of fucking cannons. Oh my god!
I think it was like it weighed 15. It was like 500 tons, and then the increase of just guns alone put it to 800 tons.
Yeah.
So it was the first submarine then, technically.
Well, basically, yeah.
Yes. Because you've reached the end of the story before we got there.
I'm so sorry. What happened is,
Moving on.
in the battle, it lined up its guns. It fired. The ship rocked so hard it tipped, and all the cargo shifted inside the ship, and the whole thing tipped and sank.
And it had all the gun ports open because they were firing, and all the water came in all the gun ports, and so it fired one volley, went and sank.
Yeah.
I was hoping
That was it.
I was hoping more like it sailed and it was just so heavy that it just started like going out into deep water and just
they got that
immediately
far.
went under.
That went fast. But imagine firing and then bang. Oh my god!
We made a terrible mistake.
All cannons at the exact same time, so you just fire and the ship
That's
goes.
the rule.
You've got the scientist like on the pier just with the clipboard. Didn't work.
Yeah. No, but like,
Too many guns.
yeah.
Parchment and quill. It's a clipboard. I invented it, and then he dies.
For this exact moment.
You think like
At least something good came.
people still like made that mistake later on. Like you think of like oh, we should probably keep to weight restrictions. But I think like the Austro-Hungarian force in like World War One massively put too much cargo and too many guns on their ships, and they had a rule where they couldn't make hard turns. So it's like if there was a torpedo, they couldn't turn the ship because it would sink the ship.
Stare it down.
Yeah, whereas like
If you think
World
it.
War One,
Right, okay.
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like they had to make very small ones. Whereas like if anything was
Small
like
adjustment.
yeah, like 1 degree, 1 degree. If it was like we have to turn now, no, we don't.
No, we don't.
We'll make it in the next 27 minutes.
That torpedo may hit us, but if we turn, we will sink.
And you'll be the idiot.
Just using my future clipboard, Captain, I just want to note if we're going to fire back at anyone, we shouldn't be firing all on one side of the ship. Because I have a feeling spaceships are relatively heavier compared to...
Well, I don't think they can sink, though.
No, but we can flip. Because we've got multiple dimensions of movement.
Yeah, we
Yes.
just go...
Yeah, we
spiral off into space.
We shot and then we just jetted off in one direction.
Actually,
all this talk about torpedoes and such. Are we even a weapons ship? Aren't we a discovery ship?
Yeah.
Do we hold weapons?
yeah, you don't know.
Good question.
Star Trek, they are explorers, but they have weaponry.
That's a good point.
Are we a part of the Federation?
Our own federation.
We are the Federation. We're trying to establish our own federation.
X note on the iteration fade to the Risen pay.
Oh, yes. Federation.
Yeah.
Down those guys.
Fuck everyone that's not.
That'll explain why we haven't fired back yet.
Yeah.
Can't find the guns.
Also,
We never use them.
they're all hairdressing booths, lovers, and pillows.
Yes.
I feel like
We also still have cannons on the ship.
They're used for like they're used for laser skin surgery now. Not weaponry.
we're doing
out in front of the ship.
Yeah. Laser out, get a tan, come back.
we're doing a podcast. The rest of the ship are looking for the schematics of the ship. Where are the guns? Where are the bullets? Not the
That's what
bullets.
those people
That would be
running
fun,
around
though.
were. That's what the people running around were.
Yeah.
Robots and androids and other things.
Well, we only have androids now since you fired everyone out of the airlocks last time you were with us.
They were all sick. I needed to get rid of them.
I'm kind of a sick android.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very good point. Unless they have a computer virus.
Makes me think of the, funnily enough, the efficiency of that. Another fact, do you know where the first robot was from?
France.
No?
What? What a weird guess.
Yeah. Closer. You're actually really close.
Germany.
Germany, World War One. They were, one of the first wars. It was basically one of, the decoding machines. It was a robot.
Huh.
It was like the first equivalent. Oh, yeah, it was just like, Jesus, okay.
That's classed as a robot.
Well, Alan Turing and such, like the Enigma machine.
Yeah, it was something like that, but it was something that you think, oh, robot. It's like and it's like, no, it was like a box.
A box that decodes things.
It wasn't made by IBM or anything.
So the first computers...
I'm trying to think of 3 words in Ich bin Munich. IBM.
The first computers were called difference engines. Ooh. And they were mechanical, a bit like the things you see in the Imitation Game, right? So it's a ton of cranks and things instead of transistors and stuff that we have now, and you turn the handle to make all the cogs go, and that's how you did computations.
And a little monkey dances.
Imitation Game, another super accurate documentary.
It's not accurate.
That's the joke.
Right. I don't know how accurate that film is. That's
It's not.
It's not.
Well, very much in terms of how they portray Mr. Turing.
Right, yeah, they really up his character.
Yeah.
That's the most boring. That's the one with Benedict Cumberbatch. It's really boring at the beginning.
Doctor Strange, thank you very much.
You mean Sherlock Holmes?
The one and only.
More stupidity.
My last on my list is the Tsar tank.
Okay.
Tsar as in TSAR.
TSAR.
Yeah.
So the Tsar is in for Russia. This was during World War One, obviously. I mean, even though they had the Tsar bomb later on in Russia.
Yeah, Tsar bomber.
Yeah.
Tsar bomber. It's actually the nickname given to it by Westerners. The Tsar bomber. Okay. So it's a bomb there was a nuclear bomb developed by the Russians that
was inferior to the communist bombs in every way.
The biggest bomb ever detonated.
Biggest bomb ever detonated.
Jeez, I think the shockwave went 3 times around the world. And I think I heard it slightly shifted our orbit. It was that large.
I'm not sure about that.
By a dot. Okay, have you ever looked at like a penny farthing and thought, you know what, this needs to be 2.5 stories tall and armoured?
Yes.
Because that's what it looks like. I drew a little diagram for you guys.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
What?
it's a 2.5-story giant wheel
with a small gun on the back.
No.
apparently.
The top middle portion, for the listeners at home, go look it up. The top middle part that sticks
I'll
up.
post the picture.
The guns are up the top. At the back is a tiny wheel that apparently got stuck in so much mud all the time.
I don't feel like having a giant wheel on the front, bit of a target.
Oh no,
You
it's
just shoot at the wheel.
two giant wheels, but apparently it's
Two giant targets.
Apparently it was very very
Unreliable.
Unreliable and open to any type of fire, especially mortar. Like it was.
This is our stealth machine.
The idea is it was like the wheels were so large they could just roll over anything. Well, they roll over trenches because they're so large that any debris. It's like 2.5 stories tall, which is like 8.2 meters. It's
I love that berserker mentality. It's just like literally just the biggest, strongest things. It's not going to get stopped.
we'll just go over it.
Let's just do it.
But yeah, after some it never saw any action.
Yeah.
After some testing, they were like, "This is awful. This is just terribly awful. A stupid idea."
Tanks themselves, like mechanized infantry, while they're effective, they were pretty hellish machines. Anyway, especially to operate, and you basically lived in them.
Yeah, and especially back then, like that's when I guess the combustion engine was still quite new. Half the stuff. Like half the time tanks wouldn't work.
Yeah, they just wouldn't start.
You'd spend half the time fixing the tank.
Yeah.
Than as you would be using it.
And when they did work, there's a slight chance that it just blows up on the inside.
You'd
Like
blow
being
up,
like
or you'd probably like poison yourself, or get CO2.
burn alive inside.
being a flamethrower trooper.
Yeah, that is the most dangerous.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I'm living another day.
Yeah, I was reading up like another stupid one. There was like the flame trooper, but then there was also one the Germans used that was so heavy. You technically needed 4 people, but they made 2 people use it, and it was just you could barely hold it. And that
I'm going
was
to say,
like
let alone move.
Basically like anyone using it was going to die. Like it was just you go there, you shoot some fire. Straight away, people are going to see you. If they didn't see you before,
The giant gouts of flame are a bit of a
Just
giveaway.
like whoever's ready to leave the military, before you go, one last mission. You're a flame man.
thanks.
Flame man.
Yeah, I guess sounds pretty cool. Oh, yeah. Sorry,
You even get to say flame on.
What does that mean? Give it like 50 years. But like, it was
20?
that image as well. I was looking at it, I'm like, that looks like a Warhammer 40k like orc tank. It looks like, I'm like, oh, and then it wouldn't
badly put together. Yeah.
it wouldn't see action until the next 80 years when Games Workshop made it as a playable tank. Order now the Tsar tank.
Also, your little doodle of that penny farthing monstrosity has to go on our Instagram account.
Yes, it does. It does.
Here's a picture for people at home.
That's so beautiful.
Oh, that
Yeah.
does not look effective.
It's-
you could just look at it and be
it's-
like, no.
Beautiful, but it looks so destroyable.
Do you know what it needs? It needs spinning blades.
You know,
Yeah.
like take that and now turn it into a giant spider.
I was thinking that. When I was looking, I'm like, this
in the Wild
needs
Wild
8
West.
legs.
I want to drive that like down the street, just in like the
know.
little booth at the top, like, good morning.
Like, who needs a monster truck when you have that? You're going through the drive-through. Yeah, can I?
And then you take it to like Back to the Future 2 Into the Future, and you get the hover conversion, and the 2 wheels go, and then it's like a helicarrier.
Oh, I love it.
I want it.
But yeah, they're my stupid things of war.
Yeah, it's cool. I love a lot of the things.
Military.
It makes me think, a lot of the things we think of from the video game era that we live in are really cool.
Yeah.
Like, flamethrowers and tanks. The reality, horrifying.
Yeah.
Terrible. You don't want any part of it. It's like, who wants to be the flamethrower guy? Everyone's like, no.
Do you reckon that's what we're known for? Like, Middle Ages, Victorian era, video game era.
Maybe.
defining
I guess
feature.
we're the information age, which is
Yeah.
slightly less exciting.
I feel like it'll be the Disney era.
no.
They'll brand it.
They buy up everything.
By the era.
If only there was a Disney lawyer present.
I was born in 1990, Walt.
What's it like? Yeah, it's like after
Walt
death,
Disney plus
after
three.
war. After war death.
It's like, was it like the age of the Lord of our Savior, Walt Disney?
So he's like God, but it's like Mickey
Bringer of
Mouse
the
is like
Star
Jesus.
Bringer of anti-Semitism.
I died for your sins.
I feel that like everyone says that about Walt Disney. He wasn't. He just was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
To be an anti-Semitist.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't really.
Semitist. Semite. Anti-Semite.
And he wasn't really.
There's another episode
Dedicated to the evils of Walt Disney.
yeah, can we just not get into anti-Semitism? Let's keep it light. Back to war. And on that note, I wanted to find something nice about war.
Is there anything?
So you
else?
found nothing?
Yeah. So we live in a pretty horrible time, right?
I thought you said you were keeping it light.
Yeah. Lots.
it's always pretty horrible.
There's war and possibly all the time, and possibly a dangerous conflict on the horizon, and things are they're really bad, right?
Yeah.
Wrong.
Okay.
You're all wrong. We live in the most peaceful time ever. It's great. Yeah.
Incoming missile! Keeping you on your toes.
Another thing. Do we have shields? Sure.
Whether they're
shields.
up or not.
I don't know. Keep looking through the schematics. I've never read the manual for the ship.
I'm just going to press this button and see if it does anything. I'm going to press it again. Sorry. That's the life support for the one crew member.
That's my air.
Only yours, though.
Only my air.
Sorry, you're saying peace.
Peace. So Steven Pinker, he's a Harvard psychology professor. He wrote a book called The Better Angels of Our Nature, A History of Violence and Humanity. And he looked at as much qualitative data as he could find, rather than sort of impressionistic or historical accounts. And homicide rates have absolutely plunged in the last couple hundred years. So you think it's really bad now, but in the Middle Ages, homicide rates were 35 times worse. You're much, much more likely to have someone knock you off than you are today. So much more likely.
Well, I can say that it was probably more desperate times.
Yeah,
back then.
for sure.
And
Everything is more scarce.
And it's like, I could kill someone and get away with it back then. If someone's walking through the forest, I could just kill and take their stuff, and there's no one that could probably get me.
You've never done that just on your normal walks in the morning? Just going to put that on the clipboard.
While there were city guards and things, the first official police force was in 1829, which is pretty late, considering the sweep of human history.
When was Jack the Ripper? Turn of a century? End of the...
Yeah, I believe it's the 19...
The 19th century, the late 19th century?
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Late
All right,
1800s.
cool. So we had detectives on the case, all good.
Do you have the origin of police in there? Because that's if it's that's the first.
Going back to the Egyptians, you have kind of city guards and people and prefects.
Yeah.
Is the original kind of city guard is a prefect. They're people who are designated to dispense justice and sort out disputes
and award points and make sure that students are
exactly. They evolved completely unchanged into the modern school system. But the original were the Bobbies in London, and they were based in Scotland Yard. Scotland Yard is the same place they've always been based.
Also, Bobsworth and Bobstown sound like two amazing places.
Bobsworth.
They both hate each other. They're separated by a singular river.
The Bobbies had the truncheons and rattles. Have you ever seen the pop culture thing of the Bobbies with a rattle? To raise alarm, and they didn't have the tall hat. They had tall hats, not the round ones. They had stiffened, strengthened top hats.
Oh, I love it.
To defend against overhead blows, which I think is really cool.
Defensive top hats.
Yes!
That's amazing.
Yeah, how cool
Just
is
like
that?
Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
I'm going to assume they switched to a more rounded style because
it deflects blows more
and I'm
easily.
assuming the British military also had a similar curved top.
I guess so.
So I'm assuming they've adapted the military kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
probably. Yeah. This probably has something to do with that. Back to how awesome everything is now. World War II may have been the most kind of bloody event in history in absolute terms, but as a percentage of world population, not that bad. You've got things like the Mongol invasions, which displaced and killed millions of people in China. In fact, every time a Chinese dynasty collapsed, wholesale slaughter across the whole of China.
Hurrah!
Hooray! But that sort of thing doesn't happen anymore. We live in this really kind of stable era where the country's borders don't change that much, and conflict is relatively short-lived and a lot less disruptive. Relatively, obviously, if you are a refugee, it's quite disruptive for you.
Yeah, a little bit
Personally, but actually, for all the doom and gloom, a lot of it comes about we just know about things, right? We know about all the conflicts that are going on in the world. It's easy to look up and research the war in Libya or in Syria, and you get this sense that everything is disastrous because you know what's happening in Syria 200 years ago. You have no clue what's happening 2 towns over. And someone comes
down the road,
tells you, right?
Bobsworth's gone.
It's just gone.
Who cares? It's Bobtown now.
But why? Why? He has some.
Is
kind
it
of,
the European Union and nuclear age?
Well, there's several kind of reasons. I think things like nuclear age being like maybe we it's a lot. The stakes are higher, right?
Yeah,
mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, that happy man acronym that comes with that.
If we kill each other, we can't look at cat videos on the internet anymore.
It's true.
YouTube keeps us together.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like it when I'm on it, but if you look at the comments...
Yeah, I was going to say, the videos do. The comments section is the thing that tears us apart.
We're better institutions, so actually having like legal systems and justice systems and being able to remove troublesome people from society is a thing that we couldn't do before. I like the way he puts it that commerce basically makes it cheaper to buy things than to plunder it. Yeah, it becomes. That's a nice insight into human nature, isn't it? We only plunder things because it's cheaper. Yeah. And now that it's easier to buy a thing, it's like, well, I have to train these troops, buy a boat, and feed everyone while we plunder. Can I just give you gold and you just give me the stuff? That's the reason. Not because it's not nice to kill and plunder. Yeah. Because it's cheaper.
Cheaper, convenient.
It's more convenient.
It's really capitalism.
Yes.
Saving the world.
Which kind of,
I would say probably like on like a state corporations all over the world depend like regardless of country, corporations can spread through multiple branches inside a country. So it's like, well, like I don't need to. I don't want. To
disrupt that other country.
So I'm going to pay this politician.
And that's something I was going to say as well. Like, I partially agree with him with the westernized focus, like the West as it is. But in the Middle East, that's not the case. Like, that kind of level of what... I don't want to get dark about it just because that's my work and that's the weekdays. But, it's not as organized in some areas, and that's why you do get the refugees, because that kind of system doesn't exist. There's still a lot of hate and persecution which exists beyond a normal westernized understanding of it. It's like, oh, these people are this religion, therefore they deserve to die. And it's like, yes, Jesus.
And if you like destabilize a whole region, it creates many problems. Or even looking at the whole problem with Saudi Arabia versus Iran, because Saudi Arabia is completely frightened of Iran, because Iran basically, since the 60s when they overthrew their fascist dictator, which actually was put in place by America, of course. Saudi Arabia's been freaking out, being like, we don't want that kind of raising up and taking down of monarchs, because that's what Saudi Arabia is. And
it's a monarchy.
They've been basically since the 60s completely afraid of Iran and its influence in the Middle East, and like they basically have their own Cold War where they finance the countries around them because they don't want that country's influence pushing closer towards. So it's this constant back and forth.
It's almost like conflicts in the Middle East are complicated.
Yeah.
Nobody knew how complicated Middle East peace would be.
I'm going to send Jared Kushner. He's going to be able to sort it.
We're all doing Trump hands, by the way, just for listeners.
Also, like, I love it as a sobering thought from what you were saying earlier, is that I would kill you and take your things, but it's just too much effort.
It's too much effort now.
Like,
the consequences are too dire.
I'd have to do it. I have to find the thing and then kill you. Make sure there's no noise, and have to clean it up.
Get away with it.
It's expensive to find the thing to kill him with as well. It's like, I got to buy this, and I don't have enough money for this. I may as well just invest.
Then I have to get a lawyer, and then I'll
self-represent. I'll be fine.
Like if I went to that book. I could find a knife. I could just go buy a book, or I could trade you something for the book.
Or pirate it. Yes. Just go online and just download it. You wouldn't download a book.
Piracy, the answer.
Just so audiences are aware, that was a trade which was going to be my lovely book that has Shakespeare written as the lines of the book for a mostly drunken Coke.
Probably like 10% of a bottle of Coke.
This is not 10%. It's just like this is so little.
But that's,
Sold.
it's 110% of the sugar that you'll need today, though.
Oh, goodness.
give
I'm
you
past
life.
that.
Yes.
This fellow Steven Pinker puts it in a really kind of a succinct way. I really like it. People become worth more to you alive than dead.
Yes.
That's simply kind of how we've overcome some of our worst part of our natures. We've made it more financially, personally viable to have the people around you breathing than to kill them and take their stuff.
How long did it take us to figure that out?
A long fucking time.
When they outlawed child labor.
Fair.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
slavery.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
probably as well. Yeah,
Just like-
all sorts of like subservience.
I think it is worth saying from the kind of more serious conversation you guys were having that I'm not trying to minimise the impact of current conflicts. It's just that
on a global scale,
exactly. Conflicts are
I got that you were. I got that was the case when you started being like, you thought it's bad. No, everything's fine. It's like, Jesus, okay. I guess we're not being.
Is that satirical?
Hello, ISIS. Yeah, it's okay. We're at peace now.
Speaking of duck.
Also, like, did we duck or did the ship duck? Because if we ducked, that did nothing.
Let me just. Can I just touch the console? Just check.
Just don't do the oxygen thing again.
Okay, I'll just.
It's a free for all. Touch what you want.
I'm just gonna turn this lever and move this knob, and we're fine.
Okay.
And we have shields up, apparently.
Oh, sweet! Thank
They're linked
goodness.
to the oxygen as well.
I'm so glad you're editing this one. There's a lot of
yeah.
sound effects that are going into this one.
I'm gonna find a soundboard, or I might just get James to do something in the wild and just do an explosion noise. Do an explosion noise.
But just like
Great.
really off mic, like explosion noise.
Explosion noises.
It's an explosion noise. It's space. There's no sound.
Oh, very true.
Yes, of course.
You don't need to do anything. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's when you have the one bit of video of just like the.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, we can just hear like. That's the air escaping.
You're getting scientific. He also reckons that the growth of literacy and communication, the more literate a society is, the more chance you have to read about other people's experiences, right? And so that means your empathy for other people grows, and
guess also being
your
able to-
knowledge of what they're about and rational explanations for
like
things.
understanding their culture and even understanding their language is probably key.
Yeah, very handy. Very, very handy.
I don't know what you said. What are you saying? You want me to kill you?
I think that's what he said. I think it must be what he said. And then, any more thoughts on living in the most peaceful time ever?
I like living in peace.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's
I don't have a lot to compare it
No,
to.
I don't want to kill you all.
Hey, look, we don't have to go very far back within our own families and generations before, we just talked about World War II. Yeah. It's only 30 years gone, right? We're just
30 years
30 years
into
into the 70s. No, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say. I was like,
what year are we in? I was like,
It's only
1974.
74 is 30 years gone. No, it's only a couple of generations gone, and there are people, we're finally the last people who were alive for World War One are passing away now. It's not that far into our history that our own societies were involved in large-scale conflicts. 30 years gone, you had the Vietnam War, which Australians were Australians part of Vietnam?
Australians were part of Vietnam.
Dakota Trail.
Hells yeah, they were conscripted into that.
Yeah.
They were spat on when they came back. They were. The Prime Minister of the time was like, "We'll join."
Yeah, and hugely unpopular.
Yeah.
But that's not that far in our history, right? And it's almost unthinkable for us to think we would be involved in that kind of scale of a conflict.
Yeah, well, it's strange. It's like even in like the Iraq and Afghanistan conflict, it's like we're at war, but at no time you would go. You could, unless seeing something on the news, you could probably go weeks and weeks and not even think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
You went for what, like 11 years?
Vietnam War?
No, Iraq and Afghanistan.
Wow, you can tell how far I tuned out then. Entire conversation
with us. I mean, Gulf War ended like early 90s.
Yeah, 91, wasn't it?
Quite short.
Yeah, 90 or 91.
Yeah.
I think I was born near the end of it, so I am the savior.
You're the reason that along with everyone else.
Exactly. We are the army.
That was like quick, efficient. They knew what they did.
Yeah.
It was like they went and fought an army rather than trying to fight a militia who was like
and instigate a change of regime.
Yeah,
and not really know
you
what the
basically
end game was.
You basically they went in, disabled an entire country, broke up the army, so you couldn't use them to enforce like martial law. So basically you force them to join up with like rebel forces, and you just turn the whole country into a shit show.
But as you say, you could kind of ignore that news, right?
Out here, if you didn't see on the news, you wouldn't even know about it at all.
And you wouldn't see it on most news. It's mostly like you got to look to your SBSs and your like,
unless you actively go searching for it.
Yeah, exactly.
My last thing is about Wojtek, who is a fuzzily wuzzly bear.
Aww.
So
Brother of Wojciech.
Wojciech. Who's Wojciech?
Wojciech, the play.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Wojtek is a Syrian brown bear who was purchased by a Polish regiment fleeing from Iran in the early stages of World War II. So he had been found by like a local child who the mother as a cub, and the mother had been killed by hunters, and this regiment, who ended up staying in a refugee camp for a while before coming back to Poland, they took a real shine to him. Were like, oh, we're gonna buy this bear and we're gonna look after him ourselves. And then when they were redeployed and they were going back into the European theatre, they needed to pay for his transportation and his rations, right?
Yeah.
So they enlisted him as Private Wojtek.
Jesus, love it.
And so he came with them on the boat. He had his own special box. And
did they like shave him and dress him in human clothes?
No. He was really well loved. They just needed him on the books to
Uncle Barry.
He doesn't say much.
They needed to hide him. He was a celebrity. He was like famous with the commanders and stuff. They would love to come and visit him. He was like a kind of a PR.
Oh, I'm bleeding.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah. It's like, I'm sorry, we have to send you to the front.
I'm thinking of Gentle Ben from The Simpsons now as well.
No, Ben, no. I've also got another Simpson one, which is "Rar rar she bear. No one understands a word. I told you, I'm not a bear."
He was even promoted to corporal at one point. He even got a promotion. And in
no, sorry. What did he do to deserve that promotion?
He mauled and killed the enemy.
He served in the artillery supply company in the Battle of Monte Cassino in 1944, and he was moving crates of ammunition and reportedly never dropped a single one. So I think he definitely deserved his promotion.
He could carry crates.
He could carry crates of ammunition.
One under both arms.
Insane. That's insane.
When you said
there's a really so the Polish Second Corps, they updated their insignia.
Look at him
to honour.
That's
Wojciech.
also terrifying.
Yeah, he's got a giant. That's a big artillery shell, right?
Can you imagine you're finding the enemy and like it's like we got to take out that artillery unit. You go around there, you just see a bear carrying ammunition. You're like, nope.
They look at the bear. The bear looks at them. They both stop, and it's just like
It's like,
okay.
would you assume there's like, what if you saw more? What if it's just a base of bears?
Yeah. A whole bear regiment.
Oh my God! The Polish army are all bears. They're bears. When you said
Polish. That's why.
When you said artillery, though, I was really hoping like they mounted a gun to his back, so it's just like he's like walking and they're just firing.
Love it.
God, this sounds like the best Yogi Bear episode ever.
Yes.
I gotta find them artillery shells.
But Yogi,
get on my back gun.
Hey, boom boom, trying to go boom boom.
No, boom boom.
He enjoyed smoking and eating cigarettes. When he couldn't
I feel
find
like
anyone
it's
to
less
light
the
them.
smoking and more the eating.
Yeah, no, but apparently he would actually smoke. He would smoke cigarettes
Between
Can he hold
the
them?
fingers? Or?
I don't know, through between his claws. I guess not sure. No pictures of him smoking. Unfortunately,
Wouldn't that be the first thing you get?
Yeah.
That's the insignia. Bomb in one, artillery shell in one hand. Smoking.
in a soldier's uniform, it's like poorly fitting.
You're looking through your sniper scope. You're like, nope.
It's like you're a sniper. You slowly move around, and you see a glimmer, and you're like, And he's like a polar bear looking for a stone. Bang!
Is that a polar, like a bear sniper? He's like trained him to use a rifle.
Yeah.
It's like dead shot, just the gun is on
It'd be
his arm.
fantastic. They're like, imagine like you get a bear, right? It's dead. You take out the insides and you wear it as a suit, and then you're lying there as a bear. And someone's like, "Oh, it's just a bear," and you just sit there to see the glimmer.
The mouth opens, the barrel goes out.
Bang! And it's done. Slides back in.
Nothing about this story is not horrifying.
Okay, so all right. After demobilisation in 1945, he was transported to Scotland, where he lived out his days in Edinburgh Zoo.
Oh, so he was he honourably discharged?
Yeah, he was honourably discharged.
Military pension?
A lot of fish.
Yeah,
I was thinking that. Yeah.
He was often visited by journalists and former Polish soldiers, some of whom would toss him cigarettes, where he proceeded to eat them because there's no one there to light them for him.
I feel like this story ends the same way as, and he was told the war was over. He didn't agree.
He didn't believe it. Yeah.
They had to get his bear commanding officer to come in. I just like the idea of like a really old, like decrepit Polish soldier, like sitting in a wheelchair, just like throwing cigarettes at a bear. And it's like Grandpa, you can't do that. It's like, he loves it. He loves them.
This bear fought with me in the war.
Okay, Grandpa. What the hell are you talking about?
It's a time for you to go to the home.
That's a really weird Polish accent there, Grandpa. Forget it.
He's there like throwing cigarettes to the tigers, the elephants. Just
They all fought with me in the war. Fuck.
Would the elephant put the cigarette in its trunk or in its mouth? Discuss.
He'd hold it in his trunk.
Yeah, holding his trunk into his mouth.
And breathe out through the trunk.
Yeah.
He died in 1963 at the age of 21.
Well, that's pretty good for a bear.
He did more in 21 years than I've done in 26.
Yeah. He's a famous soldier, and you're a not famous podcaster.
Yeah.
They should have like imagine putting him into other divisions instead of artillery, like the paratroopers. Oh, fantastic!
He'd be so upset, like floating. They'd be like
literal drop bears.
There's a 2011 film about him. Wojtek, the bear that went to war.
Can we watch this?
Narrated by Brian Blessed.
Can we watch this?
We should watch it. We should watch it.
Does he voice the
Does
bear?
anyone know who Brian Blessed is?
Yes,
You do?
yeah.
He's got a fantastic bear mouth.
Blessed, a man with a giant beard and an even bigger voice.
I'm so glad he talks like that because that will make the word bear amazing.
Oh yeah.
He's a bear.
I'm sorry I didn't
bear
watch it.
narrating a movie about bear. Also, like he's in Tarzan. He's the only the character in Disney that's a human that has the biggest mouth. He's the hunter in the Disney Tarzan film. And he's like, you look at the size of his mouth, and it's the size of like another character's head, and it's Brian Blessed, and you're like, yep. No arguments there.
There are some statues of him as well. So that one's in Krakow in Poland.
We'll link dump.
Yep. That's a black screen.
Yeah, it's at nighttime.
Yes.
I salute you, polar bear.
It's him. He's like, "Rrr." He looks a bit scary. The one in Edinburgh, in Prince's Garden in Edinburgh, is a lot more friendly looking. It's him with a soldier.
I'll play somebody smoking.
Would have been nice if they put him into trying to be a spy.
Yeah.
It's like
Sneaky bear.
They make Vitek 2 undercover, and he's like trying to sneak into like German military. He's like SS uniform on.
I want the SS armband on him.
You said that. I was thinking like disguising him as other animals. So it's like, this is my seeing eye dog, and it's just like spray painted blonde.
But like, and he's got like a monocle, and the hat with a skull on it.
Yes.
See, what's the old Family Guy joke? Because you guys are idiots. They're going to be looking for army guys. No one's looking for a bear.
Make him look like a cow. Make him like a horse. It's like, yes, this is just my mounted division. Look at my horse.
Okay, let's see you milk that cow then.
You look at Wojtek, and Wojtek's like just like knowing glare in his eyes, like, and then it's just like, don't worry, I got this. And you like lean underneath, pull the gun. Wojtek gets both of his guns out, and just
once again a film I will watch.
Yes, totally.
A man and his bear.
Brother bear.
That's me. So things aren't as bad as you think, and bears can serve honourably in war.
We can learn a lot from the bear.
Yeah.
The noble bear.
The noble bear. So your go.
I love how much this ties into my
always seems to happen
research
nicely.
this week. So I have a question for you. Why did the chicken cross the road?
To get to the other side.
To blow up West Germany.
Okay, nice. Oh my God.
So, best joke ever. Laugh every time. So we're looking at 1957. So there was a project called Project Blue Peacock, formerly Project Blue Bunny, formerly Project Brown Bunny. So this is at a time when the Cold War is obviously starting to take effect, and the British Army, specifically the Royal Armament Research and Development Establishment, were looking to... Basically, everyone was worried about Russia invading more and more into Europe. So they'd taken over a lot of Eastern Europe at that time. And
Soviet bloc.
Yeah, so there was a fear that they were going to push into West Germany. So England were looking into doing basically the scorched earth policy. So, we destroy this area because if we can't have it, then you guys can't have it too.
Petty. Lucky. Yeah.
So the original idea, what they were going to do is to stop the Red Army pushing into West Germany, is they were going to grab landmines and kind of situate them in West Germany in certain perimeters, telling Germany, by the way, who West Germany are meant to be kind of allies at this point, under the proviso that, oh no, this is just a, what do we have? It's an atomic power unit for the English troops that are currently stationed in Germany. So this is what we're gonna, that's why they're there.
And don't go near them because they're atomic.
Yeah. And also Davy Crockett's don't touch them either.
So these particular mines, so they were going to be placing 10 mines. They ordered 10 mines that were going to go under the German planes. Each of them, so one bomb could give off 10 kilotons, which is half of the Nagasaki atom bomb.
Jesus.
So they weren't just like anti-tank or anti-personnel mines. They were these giant explosive bombs.
Mines that basically, that if the enemy, they would be triggered either remotely or obviously by the enemy walking across. If that was to occur, they obviously scorch that place, and it stops any attacks coming after that because it's not a livable environment.
And they're also like, how many more of those? In there.
A lot. So any successive attacks to be like, let's maybe not do that.
Yeah, sure.
So they ran into one
Still
major
waiting
problem.
for the chickens. So.
It's continuing the Western theme, though. I was like, let's just firebomb Germany again. It's like, what year is it? It's 57.
Can we do it again?
Let's go back to Dresden. They started to build it back up. Let's firebomb it again.
So they had an issue. And it wasn't that it's morally wrong.
No, of course. They're Germans. They're not people.
How do
it was
they
us.
keep...
We did it. We put it. Yeah. It's us putting it in their country.
It's, hey, during the winter, we need to keep the bombs warm. And during the winter, it's not going to happen that way. So, okay, let's brainstorm this. We could do blankets. Just have kind of blankets to keep the inside of the shells warm.
So if they got too cold, they wouldn't detonate? Is that the idea?
They just wouldn't work. Yeah, it would stop working. They need to keep them warm and kind of...
Cozy.
Big blanket, nightcap, and a thermometer just to make sure that they're okay.
A water bottle.
It's like someone's like, okay, it's my shift. Walks down on the gun. Hey, baby, how you doing tonight?
Pants off.
Just and then, like, movie plug. You're an atomic blonde, baby. My Charlize Theron.
You laugh.
Timely.
You laugh, but one genius said, what about chickens? What about we place chickens inside the casings and we give them enough food to last them roughly a week, which would not only keep them alive, but it will stop them from pecking at the wiring that's inside the bomb.
And the heat from the chicken would keep the bomb operational.
The body warmth of the chickens is enough to keep these going for
Why not just a heater?
Yeah,
for about a week. And they realize, a week's probably not enough. Maybe this is a bad idea. They did create one. But basically what they decided are probably like... They ended up cancelling it because, there's probably a lot of nuclear fallout and the political ramifications are probably not worth it. Yeah, let's probably not
No
do
more
it.
Germany. Cons. everything.
Bros, chicken bombs.
He said as well, it's like, well, how about chickens? And I immediately imagine one person looked at him and said, what about them?
It's like lunch, right?
Yeah. Right? It's like, that's also what I meant. Scratches at the drawing of a chicken bomb, a giant chicken that is also a nuke.
It's why you shouldn't invent military weapons, before lunch.
Yeah.
It's just all food.
It was just some doodle. Someone had it was like the specs for a nuclear weapon. Someone doodling a chicken on it. He left, and the guy came back and was like,
Genius.
"My God,
We're thinking of a new nerve agent. What is it? It's a steak-based sandwich. You really need to eat, don't you? Oh man, it's been 3 days.
so hungry."
Is everyone going, that's such a stupid idea? Go on.
Yeah.
Do it.
How? It's like, how though?
Do you know what? If we do this, podcasters in many years to come will have a field day with this little tidbit of information. Has to be done.
He's a German spy. He mentioned podcasts. The German word for the Führer.
So Project Blue Peacock was declassified in 2004, and it was actually put on in an exhibition at the Natural Archives. Here's the thing, is that the date it was declassified, and so the date it showed up at this exhibition was April 1st, 2004. So everyone naturally assumed this was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
Like, surely there's not a chicken that's...
They didn't try and heat
ridiculous.
bombs with chickens to keep them operational.
So Tom O'Leary, who is the head of education and interpretation at the Natural Archives, said this: "It does seem like an April Fool, but it most certainly is not. The civil service does not do jokes."
Love it.
I think as well, the idea of releasing on April 1st, though, would work because it would soften the blow of, it's like, yeah, we were kind of prepared to lose Western Germany.
Yeah.
We were kind of prepared to just let that all burn.
Just sack
Germany's
it.
just going, haha, wait.
Yeah.
On the topic of, I guess, Western East Germany, do you know that the West had lots of spies in East Germany, obviously.
Really?
Yes.
Do tell us.
During
How do
that
they get through the
time,
Iron
though, they have their ways. During that time, East Germany wasn't renowned for its plumbing. Right? Did not have great plumbing.
Okay.
At the same time, they didn't have a lot of toilet paper.
I feel these are connected.
Right.
Okay.
So, secret agents would go into stalls after Soviet soldiers would go in, because soldiers and agents would use classified documents as toilet paper.
No
They would
way.
have to sort through bins of shit and shit paper, take it, clean it up, and they apparently got so much information from this.
Wow.
Yes, it would be someone's job to go through shit because it's not actually destroying the evidence. People would be like transfers of like weapons and shipments. It would be all on this.
Shipments.
Coen Brothers film, Shit After Reading.
Shit after reading.
I was
Literally burn that after reading it.
It's going to be like the end of Shawshank Redemption, like 1,000 times after they finish their shift. They just get back and they're like, ah!
Yeah. But then after there's always a nugget of gold.
So there's another. So the military's not done with using animals.
Okay.
Yeah, I know a few of these, I think.
So the United States Navy SEALs.
Yep.
Not seals or sea lions, but I just wanted to be able to say that.
Yeah,
With
okay,
freaking lasers on their head.
I think from your tone of voice, all the audience could see your eyebrows rise up.
My bionic eyebrow. It was the United States Navy Marine Mammal Program, which had been around as a black project, so they weren't allowed to talk about it. They didn't talk about it. 1967. So initially they started playing around with the idea of using dolphins.
Yeah.
So there was Sea Lab. So Sea Lab had a few iterations. Specifically, Sea Lab 2 is basically an underground facility where they would have people go down for 2 weeks to 30 days at a time to do their sea labbing stuff, and they had a dolphin called Tuffy.
Aww.
And Tuffy would ferry instruments and things from the surface to Sea Lab 2 to mixed results. Sometimes they would get the equipment, sometimes they wouldn't.
Okay, yeah.
Why did you bring me a fish? Dolphin shrug.
With the flippers. Damn it, Tuffy.
He starts texting the bear and the Polish bear.
But dolphins being as incredibly intelligent as they are, they have a lot of uses. So with the dolphins specifically, they are good at locating mines.
Yeah.
Specifically through their echolocation.
Yeah, cool.
They would go out and go to that spot. If that happened to be a landmine, they'd go back.
A landmine?
A landmine?
Sea
A
mine?
land sea mine. Land
Not
sea
very good
mine.
at detecting landmines, dolphins. I'm just saying. You got this tank rolling along with full of water.
What's that, Tuffy? You feel something?
They fire it, it tips, all the water comes out, and they drown.
He brings back a landmine. How did you get this?
Again, dolphin shrug.
So they would use the echolocation. They'd locate the sea mine. They would press a button near the boat, and then they would put a target, like a little buoy, to be like, here's where it is.
Oh, wow. That's
The dolphin just goes up, releases the buoy. They're like, okay, we can either go around that, or we
try
can
and
disarm it, or whatever.
yeah.
And so Minesweeper was born.
I know.
Nice highbrow reference of Red Alert.
Red Alert?
You remember the video games Red Alert, which have they're like a really weird alternate World War II history where someone goes back and kills.
The first one, I think the second one is they kill Hitler and it throws everything off. The third one is they kill Einstein.
Yeah,
so
they kill
nuclear
Einstein.
war never becomes a thing. Which has armored bears in that one as well.
Yeah, they have things like armored bears, and if you're the Allies, you can have dolphins.
Yes.
You have dolphins that can attack ships with their sonar attacks. yeah.
All the Japanese are samurai robots.
They're also
So it's
used,
really accurate, obviously.
And Tim Curry's in it and he's great.
Yeah, he is awesome.
They're also used to locate intruders. So similarly, if they find intruders, they touch a sensor on the ship to inform.
So they find like a frogman or something trying to infiltrate. Yeah,
They're given a
frogman is a guy in a scuba suit. Yeah,
Actually, lizard men, Illuminati. We're back.
we're back.
You said Frogman, and I just immediately went to Toad from X-Men. I'm like, yep.
I'm with you.
Fight some mutants. The dolphins are given like a strobe light, and they're trained to go up to, let's say it's a diver, and nudge them so that the strobe light goes off their nose and is where the diver is, and then they swim away for the military to go find the diver.
It becomes a rave as well. It's like,
Oh, this is lovely.
Is this kind of experimental, or did they actually get anywhere with it?
Well, they used them a lot in a lot of showings, just
Demonstrations.
yeah, demonstrations and such.
SeaWorld shows.
On your list, do you happen to have like Stalin trying to make ape men?
What's this?
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Where it's like, Stalin tried to breed like human
yes,
ape.
I was going there.
Human ape hybrids.
Oh yeah, the famed humanzees. The funny thing is that it wasn't to breed a super soldier. For Stalin, it wasn't to breed super soldiers as most people think it was. It was to prove the validity of evolution. It's like a fuck you to religion. Be like, see how close we are? See that this is possible?
That sounds like a Stalin thing to do. Kill 5 million of your own people, show that God doesn't exist.
Yeah,
I think you're kind of accomplishing the same thing.
He's a stickler.
It's like really proving it.
Young Stalin, though, if you see the pictures, heartthrob. Old Stalin, a little bit murdery.
I was just going to say that's a good book. Stiffy for Stalin.
For Stalin.
I think someone would have pointed out the potential to him, though. It's like, if you get this working, super soldiers.
Be like, okay, let's just go on to the theory of scientific proof of evolution and let's talk later.
His dying words were, I didn't believe in the super soldier program.
Nah. He's like, but I've seen a liger. It can happen.
Wasn't there one with dogs going under tanks or something?
Ooh. I don't know.
They would train dogs to. They would like put mock-ups of tanks and put food under them, so that the dogs would go, food under tanks, and then they would put explosives on the dogs and be like, run under that tank. Unfortunately, they only had tanks. They trained them on their own tanks.
Yeah.
I have a similar. Yeah. I'll come back to the bat bombs later.
Oh my god, there's so many funny animal things. Carry on.
So with the mammal program, they also utilize sea lions for two ways. One is again to locate mines. So they had little like a little clamp that they're trained to attach to bombs or mines and things, which will be attached.
Seal hands.
No, with their mouth. So they go with their mouth and they clamp it on, and then it's attached to a line, and they reel it up.
So adorable.
I'll tell you what is adorable. Sea lions had the power to arrest. So they were given what? There are a thing called leg cuffs. Sea lions were trained to, in their mouths, they would hold onto the leg cuffs. If they find divers,
face right now.
attach these leg cuffs to a diver's thighs, technically arresting them, and that sea cuff, that land sea cuff, is attached to the ship, and they just reel it in.
Oh my god!
So you've got a seal chasing you with handcuffs.
Yeah.
Basically.
The thing that's less fun is that they just leave them at the underside of the ship just to rot.
And just drag them.
Yeah, it's just like you just got bond. Like, so you're swimming up. You're like, I'm about to get there. And you just see like the skeleton face and a scuba mask. You're like, no, and then you get hit by a strobe light.
And the program was declassified in 1992.
Okay, yeah.
And they have said that they're going to phase it out this year.
Still a thing.
They've been trying for years to do so because they're trying to find a proper level of technology in unmanned kind of vehicles that they can use to
they
go
go like
bombs
dolphins. Maybe like the Predator drones they have in the air. They
essentially,
they want unmanned.
So if you want to look them up, they're called General Dynamics knife fish. They're just massive little like bomb-looking things, but they're used to locate mines and to attach clamps once again, so that they don't have to use animals. Because
animals.
Funny that animal rights groups are not a fan of the mammal program.
Militarizing animals. Yeah.
But they're getting a pension and they're helping their fellow animal and man.
Well, as far as animals that get recognition, first of all, I just need to bring up a name because I think everyone knows about homing pigeons or like messenger pigeons. Do you know how to combat messenger pigeons?
Rice.
Magnets.
What I think is the greatest name ever, the anti-communication falcon.
Because you just hunt them out of the sky. Yeah.
Well, have you heard of the animated film Valiant?
Valiant, yeah.
It's about that. It's about homing pigeons trying to dodge the falcons, basically, because falcons were introduced trained to find these pigeons and just rip them out of the sky.
Yeah, because of course, homing pigeons pretty damn hard to intercept. Right? Yeah. It's not like a radio communication where you can intercept it, or it's a piece of paper that's going over land where you shoot the guy carrying the messages.
It's hard to shoot a pigeon.
Steal them all. Pigeons, they're just they're just
hard
in the
shot.
air. Right?
I mean,
It's
Anti-communication falcon.
I mean, they're still being used. Now they're training falcons to take down drones.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's great footage of like a falconer, and he's got the falcon, and there's just like just a drone just flying around, takes the thing off, the falcon just goes, grabs it, slams it against the ground.
I initially thought you meant predator drones that I just answered, which are about 20 times the size of a falcon.
Okay, it's a different type of...
I think 20 times might be on the low end.
They've been
as well.
training albatrosses.
You go into like the big like warehouse, you take it off, and it's a giant falcon, like Lord of the Rings eagle style. You take the giant head off, it's like...
So the second half of that YouTube video is the falcon takes down the drone, you pan down, it's a kid that had his drone from like Target or Kmart.
Take that, kid.
Stop taking it to a sad place.
Well, here's the happy place.
Yay.
So these, obviously, since these carrier pigeons are heroes of war because they're putting their lives on the line, they were credited. Yeah. And so 32 pigeons have been awarded the Dickon Medal. So the Dickon Medal is a medal for animals. It has been nicknamed the Victoria Cross for animals. However, the Victoria Cross Association don't like that association. Some of the names of the pigeons that have received these medals. Hero pigeons. Winky. Paddy.
Yeah.
Gustav.
I don't trust
It's so
Gustav.
good to see you back, Gustav.
Duke of Normandy. William of Orange. G.I. Joe. All alone.
All alone?
He's the only survivor of his battalion.
Oh my god.
And finally, NPS.42.NS.2780.
Nicknamed the Whistler.
Catchy, that guy.
I checked, it was never given a name. Some of them just had coordinates. I don't know what they are. Designations. And very quickly, because I didn't do the full research on it, bat bombs. Bat bombs were used to carry incendiary bombs. And incendiary? I always forget. Incendiary bombs. That would be attached to them because the idea is that they would be released into and obviously because they would roost in places like attics and a lot of darkness, they wouldn't be found, and that would spread the most fire.
Jesus.
That's the idea. But during testing at the facility where they were trying to train these, a lot of the bats escaped, burned a whole lot of their facility.
Oh no.
So kind of like I feel sorry for the bat, but serves you damn right for trying to use the bats in that way.
Yeah, like that scene in V for Vendetta, and then you just see one bat crawl out of the wreckage.
Batman.
I guess I'm pretty glad we moved away from co-opting animals into our conflicts. It's a pretty sordid way of using our animal friends.
Yeah. That's it. It's
We don't need to be using animals.
Oh.
Yeah. Also, they're also not very reliable. You know, the collateral obviously is a bit dangerous.
There's plenty of other ways. Like, I swear there's a program called HARP. Have you heard of HARP?
No.
It's like
human animal research.
It's not to do with animals, but it's like okay.
Sounds
They denied it existed for a long time, but recently the US military admitted that it exists, and I'm pretty sure it's
on April Fools.
No, it's in Alaska. It's the HARP program, and it's a massive weather control device that apparently is powerful enough to create tornadoes, hurricanes, and earthquakes.
No.
There's a movie about something like that coming out soon.
Yeah,
it's X-Men, isn't it?
No, it's a real schlocky movie coming out of Gerald Butler, but apparently it does exist. It's like
I bet it doesn't.
It uses stuff like cloud seeding.
Yeah.
It's like that on the extreme.
So just like pumps particulates
Where you can
into the air.
you know how like you can create storms or you can like disperse clouds. Imagine doing that to an insane degree.
Okay.
Yeah. So
wow, I hope it doesn't work. That sounds
There was one thing I almost got offended there. You're like, they've been denying that the harp exists for ages, and I'm like, I have seen it played. It's a beautiful instrument. How dare you?
Yeah, it's a military application. It just soothes everybody. So I think we should pilot the ship into a nebula. That's my plan.
Okay,
that sounds pretty good.
Defeat the.
We'll just escape because no one knows how to fucking fire the weapons.
I don't think we have them. I'm pretty sure of it.
I think we've searched the whole ship and there are no weapons. So
I mean, you said that they were a rival HR. How about I go?
No, I think they're a disgruntled former employee.
I'll go over there. I'll try and work things out.
Can we beam him?
Okay,
across?
please beam him over while we escape.
Okay. Goodbye.
Sweet, we finally got rid of the HR guy. Am I right?
Now we can do whatever we want. Sean, get back in the room.
Oh. Can you look? I don't want to walk. Can you just beam me back there?
Fine.
So that's goodbye to Josh and goodbye to Sean.
Yep.
We'll also say goodbye from
First Class First Mate James, and I'll see you in the nebula.
Oh yes, goodbye from myself, Captain Phil. Join us next week where we'll be looking at astronomy because I love all things space.
Space.
So I'm going to love that topic.
I'll see you next time.
See you then.